The arrogant invasion. Commander Zethris stood on the observation deck of the Dominion flagship Sovereign's Pride, her four crystalline eyes reflecting the blue marble that was Earth. The planet hung in space like a delicate ornament, seemingly defenseless against the armada she commanded. 200 warships, each bristling with plasma cannons and neutron bombs, formed perfect geometric patterns behind her vessel. Such a primitive world, she mused, her chitinous fingers tapping against the command console. The analysts were right. They've barely mastered fusion power. Her second-in-command, Sub-Commander Varix, approached with the latest intelligence report. His scaled hide shifted from confident purple to a slightly uncertain mauve. "Commander, our deep scans confirm initial assessments. The humans possess only rudimentary space vessels, mostly converted cargo ships with basic weaponry." Zethris allowed herself a satisfied click of her mandibles. The Dominion had conquered 1,000 worlds, and this backwater planet would be no different. Begin the invasion protocol. Send the first wave to establish orbital supremacy. The first wave consisted of 50 destroyers, each capable of reducing a continent to glass. They moved forward in perfect formation, their shields shimmering with barely contained energy. As they approached Earth's outer defense perimeter, the space around them suddenly erupted with activity. Dozens of small, agile craft emerged from behind Earth's moon. They were unlike anything in the Dominion's database, sleek, angular vessels that moved with impossible speed and precision. The human ships darted between the destroyers like insects, their movements unpredictable and seemingly chaotic. "What are those?" Zethris demanded, her eyes widening as she watched the tactical display. "Unknown, Commander. They register as minimal threat vessels, but their maneuverability is unprecedented." The human craft began their attack run. Instead of engaging in traditional space combat, they performed maneuvers that defied conventional military doctrine. They flew in spirals, created false sensor ghosts, and used the Dominion ship's own mass against them, causing confusion in the formation. A bright flash illuminated the viewport as one of the destroyers suddenly went dark. Then another, and another. "Report," Zethris shouted, her composure cracking. "The humans are targeting our shield generators with surgical precision," the tactical officer reported, his voice trembling. "They're using some kind of focused electromagnetic pulse. Our systems can't compensate fast enough." Within minutes, 5 destroyers floated powerless in space. The human craft continued their relentless assault, working in perfect coordination despite their seemingly random patterns. Each ship covered the others, creating a web of protection that the Dominion weapons couldn't penetrate. "This is impossible," Varix muttered. "Their technology shouldn't be capable of this." A communication channel opened, and a human voice filled the bridge. It was calm, almost casual. "Dominion forces, this is Cadet Squadron Delta 7 of Earth Defense Academy. You are trespassing in sovereign space. Withdraw immediately or face further consequences." Zethris felt her blood run cold. "Cadets? These are students." The tactical officer's scales had turned completely white. "Commander, I'm intercepting internal human communications. They're treating this as a training exercise." "Impossible." Zethris slammed her fist on the console. "Deploy the second wave. All ships, maximum firepower." Another 100 warships surged forward, their weapons arrays glowing with deadly intent. The human cadet squadron responded by splitting into smaller groups, each executing complex maneuvers that seemed to predict the Dominion's targeting solutions before they were even calculated. As the battle intensified, more human vessels appeared from hidden positions around Earth's orbital space. They emerged from asteroid clusters, from behind satellites, even from what appeared to be empty space itself. The Dominion sensors hadn't detected them at all. "Commander," the science officer called out, "I'm detecting quantum fluctuations consistent with advanced cloaking technology. The humans have been hiding their true numbers." Zethris watched in horror as her second wave began to falter. The human ships weren't just fast and maneuverable. they displayed a level of tactical creativity that bordered on precognition. They used debris fields as weapons, triggered chain reactions in the Dominion's own ammunition stores, and somehow managed to turn the invaders' superior numbers into a disadvantage. Another transmission came through, this time from a different human voice. Delta 7, this is Academy Command. Excellent work on your final exam. The Admiralty is impressed with your innovative tactics against superior numbers. Continue the exercise and show our guests what humanity's future officers are capable of. The bridge fell silent except for the sounds of warning alarms and damage reports. Zethris felt something she hadn't experienced in centuries of conquest. Fear. They're using us for training, she whispered. This isn't even their military. These are children playing war games. As if to emphasize the point, the human cadets executed a maneuver that military textbooks would later call the Earth Spiral. 100 small craft formed a three-dimensional double helix pattern, creating a corridor of overlapping fire that systematically disabled every weapon system on the Dominion's front line. Commander, Varric said, his voice barely above a whisper, if these are their cadets, what are their actual military forces capable of? The answer came sooner than expected. A new transmission broke through their communications array, this time on a priority channel that shouldn't have been accessible to anyone outside the Dominion. Dominion Commander. The voice was older, more authoritative. This is Admiral Chen of Earth Defense Command. I understand you've met our Academy's graduating class. They've been eager to test their skills against a real opponent. I hope you don't mind that we've been observing. Zethris found her voice. This is an act of war. The Dominion will. The Dominion will do nothing, Admiral Chen interrupted. You see, Commander, you've made a fundamental error in your assessment of humanity. You judged us by our technology level without understanding our nature. We are a species that has spent our entire existence finding creative ways to survive against superior forces. Whether it's predators, diseases, natural disasters, or invading armies, we adapt. We innovate. We overcome. The tactical display showed more contacts appearing at the edge of sensor range. Massive energy signatures, far beyond anything the Dominion had encountered before. Our main fleet hasn't even entered the battlefield yet, Admiral Chen continued. What you're facing now is just our training squadron. Cadets aged 16 to 22. Flying ships we consider outdated. Would you like to meet our actual military? Zethris stared at the display, watching as ship after ship materialized from quantum space. These weren't the small, agile craft of the cadet squadron. These were behemoths that dwarfed even the Sovereign's pride, their hulls bristling with weapons that radiated power signatures that made the Dominion's most advanced technology look primitive. All ships, Zethris commanded, her voice hollow. Prepare for emergency retreat. Maximum power to engines. But even as she gave the order, she knew it was too late. The human fleet had already deployed interdiction fields, preventing any escape through hyperspace. They were trapped, at the mercy of a species they had so thoroughly underestimated. The cadet squadron pulled back, their training exercise complete. In their place, the true might of Earth's military moved forward with deliberate, terrifying precision. The flagship's sensors screamed warnings as they detected weapons systems coming online. Technologies that shouldn't exist, that defied the known laws of physics. Commander, Varric said, his scales now pure white with terror. What do we do? Zethris looked out at the approaching human fleet, at the small blue planet that had seemed so vulnerable just hours ago. She had led the Dominion to what she thought would be an easy conquest. Instead, she had delivered them into the hands of a species that turned war into an art form, that used creativity and adaptation as weapons more powerful than any plasma cannon. We pray, she answered. We pray they're as merciful as they are clever. The first shots from Earth's actual fleet lit up the void of space, and the Dominion learned what countless aggressors throughout human history had discovered. Never underestimate the species that learned to split the atom out of curiosity, reached for the stars out of wonder, and turned the very act of survival into a testament of defiance against the universe itself. As the battle began in earnest, one truth became crystal clear to every member of the Dominion forces. They hadn't come to conquer Earth. They had come to be taught a lesson in humility, delivered by a species that had mastered the art of war not through superior technology, but through superior imagination. The turning tide, the bridge of the Sovereign's pride, had descended into controlled chaos. Warning klaxons blared as damage reports flooded in from across the Dominion fleet. Commander Zethris gripped her command chair, her crystalline eyes fixed on the impossible sight before her. Earth's true military emerging from quantum space like ancient leviathans rising from the deep. Analysis. She barked, trying to maintain her composure as another destroyer winked out of existence on the tactical display. The science officer's tentacles quivered as he worked furiously at his station. "Commander, their ships are. They're using technologies that shouldn't be possible. Graviton manipulation, zero-point energy extraction, some form of predictive quantum computing that anticipates our moves before we make them. A massive human dreadnought, easily 10 times the size of the Sovereign's pride, glided past their starboard side. Its hull was a matte black that seemed to absorb light itself, marked only by the designation EDS Resilience, and a symbol that looked like a clenched fist holding lightning bolts. "Incoming transmission," the communications officer announced. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a human woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that seemed to pierce through the display. She wore a uniform adorned with medals that told stories of battles the Dominion had never heard of. "Commander Zethris," the woman said, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "I am Fleet Admiral Maria Kovac of the Earth Defense Force. You have exactly 1 standard hour to power down your weapons and surrender your fleet." Zethris felt her pride flare despite the fear coursing through her system. "The Dominion does not surrender. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. You've conquered civilizations that couldn't fight back," Kovac interrupted. "Species that hadn't learned the art of war. But humanity, we wrote the book on warfare. Sun Tzu, Clausewitz, Napoleon, Patton, these names mean nothing to you, but they are the architects of doctrines that have shaped our approach to conflict for millennia." As if to demonstrate, the human fleet began executing maneuvers that defied conventional military logic. Ships appeared to be in multiple places at once, creating sensor ghosts so realistic that the Dominion's targeting systems locked onto phantoms. Smaller craft deployed in fractal patterns, each movement part of a larger strategy that became apparent only when it was too late to counter. "Sir," Varix reported, his voice shaking, "they're using our own communications network against us. Every order we give is being intercepted, analyzed, and countered before our ships can execute." "Switch to quantum encryption protocol Zeta 9, Zethris ordered. "Already compromised," came the response. They're inside our systems, all of them." A new voice joined the communication channel, younger, almost playful. "Commander Zethris, this is Lieutenant Commander James Wong, Earth Cyber Warfare Division. Sorry about hijacking your systems, but you left your quantum firewalls wide open. Rookie mistake, really." The tactical display suddenly changed, showing not the battle but what appeared to be a human breakfast hall. Hundreds of uniformed personnel sat at tables, eating and chatting casually while massive view screens behind them displayed the ongoing battle. "That's our main fleet's mess hall," Admiral Kovac explained. "Most of our personnel haven't even finished their morning coffee yet. What you're experiencing is our automated defense grid running at about 30% capacity." Zethris felt her reality crumbling. This cannot be. You're lying. This is psychological warfare." "Everything is psychological warfare, Commander," Kovac replied. "That's lesson 1 at our military academies. Break the enemy's will to fight, and the battle is won before it begins. But since you need more convincing." The human fleet suddenly changed formation, creating geometric patterns that pulsed with energy. The Dominion ships began reporting system failures, not from damage, but from what appeared to be a fundamental rewriting of their operating code. "What are they doing?" Zethris demanded. "They're using quantum entanglement to override our control systems," the science officer reported, his voice filled with awe and terror. "They're not destroying our ships. They're taking control of them." One by one, Dominion vessels began turning their weapons away from Earth, their running lights changing from hostile red to neutral blue. The mighty invasion fleet was being converted into an impromptu defense force for the very planet they had come to conquer. "Commander," Admiral Kovac continued, "let me explain something about humanity. We spent thousands of years fighting each other before we reached the stars. Every dirty trick, every tactical innovation, every possible way to defeat an enemy. We've tried it, perfected it, and then found ways to counter it. When we finally united as a species, we took all that knowledge and asked ourselves, how do we prevent this from ever happening again?" The display changed to show historical footage: mushroom clouds over cities, trenches filled with soldiers, aerial dogfights, naval battles. Then it shifted to images of human cooperation, international space stations, global disaster relief, unified planetary defense initiatives. "The answer was simple," Kovac said. "We became so good at war that no one would dare fight us, not through brute force, but through innovation, adaptation, and the willingness to do whatever it takes to protect our home." A junior officer approached Zethris, whispering urgently, "Commander, half our fleet is now under human control. They're using our own ships to create a defensive perimeter around Earth. And the really beautiful part," the young cyber warfare officer chimed in, "is that we're doing it all with software your own systems recognize as legitimate updates. Your ships think they're following Dominion protocols." Zethris slumped in her chair. "What do you want from us?" "We want you to learn," Admiral Kovac said. "To go back to your Dominion and spread the word. Earth is not a target. We are not conquerors like you, but we will defend ourselves with every ounce of creativity and determination we possess." The human dreadnought Resilience moved closer, its weapons systems powering up. But instead of firing, it projected a holographic display that enveloped the Sovereign's pride. The display showed star maps, trade routes, and diplomatic protocols. "This is what we offer instead," Kovac explained. "Partnership, trade, cultural exchange. Humanity would rather build bridges than destroy ships. But make no mistake, if you choose war, we will end it decisively." Another transmission interrupted the channel. "Admiral, this is Captain Silva aboard the Innovation. The Cadet Squadron is requesting permission to demonstrate Advanced Maneuver Pattern Omega-7. They say it's part of their thesis project." Kovac actually smiled. "Tell them they have permission. Let's give our guests something to remember." The Cadet Squadron, which had been holding position, suddenly burst into action. They formed complex three-dimensional patterns that created interference waves in subspace itself. The Dominion's remaining autonomous ships found themselves trapped in pockets of distorted spacetime, unable to move or fire. "Theoretical physics applied to practical warfare," the young cyber officer commented. "Gotta love human education systems." Zethris watched in stunned silence as ships that shouldn't have been able to affect capital vessels effortlessly neutralized her remaining forces. These weren't just pilots. They were physicist warriors, combining scientific knowledge with tactical brilliance. "Your choice, Commander," Admiral Kovac said. "Surrender now and return to your Dominion with a message of peace, or continue this futile battle and watch as we dismantle your fleet piece by piece, not with overwhelming firepower, but with innovation you cannot begin to comprehend." The bridge crew looked to Zethris, their faith in Dominion's superiority shattered. They had come expecting to face a primitive species barely capable of spaceflight. Instead, they had encountered a civilization that had turned creativity itself into a weapon. Zethris began, then stopped. She looked at the tactical display, at her fleet now split between human control and helpless immobility. She thought of the countless worlds the Dominion had conquered, always through superior force, never facing true resistance. "There is wisdom in knowing when you are outmatched," she finally said. "Not in strength, but in spirit." She stood, straightening her uniform. "Admiral Kovac, on behalf of the Dominion Expeditionary Force, I formally surrender. We have much to learn." The human admiral nodded. "The first lesson is already learned, Commander. Never judge a species by its technology alone. Now, shall we discuss terms? I think you'll find humans can be quite reasonable when we're not defending our home." As the two commanders began negotiations, the Earth Defense Fleet maintained its position, a silent reminder of what humanity was capable of when pushed. The cadet squadron continued their exercises, turning warfare into an art form that left the watching Dominion forces in awe. In the depths of space, above a small blue planet that had seemed so insignificant, the galaxy's balance of power shifted, not through conquest or destruction, but through a demonstration that true strength came not from advanced weapons or vast fleets, but from the indomitable spirit of a species that refused to be anyone's victim. The message would spread throughout the galaxy. Humanity had arrived, and they had rewritten the rules of warfare itself. Part 3. The Empire's Collapse. 3 days after the surrender, Commander Zethris stood in the observation lounge of Earth's primary orbital defense station, watching repair crews work on her disabled fleet. The humans had been surprisingly generous in victory, offering technical assistance to restore the Dominion ship systems, after ensuring certain modifications that would prevent any future aggression toward Earth or its allies. Admiral Kovac approached, carrying 2 cups of what she called coffee. She handed one to Zethris. "Try it. It's something of a human tradition during negotiations." Zethris accepted the cup, her sensory appendages detecting complex chemical compounds. "You've been more accommodating than expected, Admiral. The Dominion's standard protocol for defeated enemies is quite different." "That's because you see enemies where we see potential friends," Kovac replied. "Humanity learned long ago that today's enemy can be tomorrow's ally. It's why we developed our doctrine of aggressive diplomacy." "Is that what you call what happened to my fleet? Diplomacy?" Kovac smiled. "The aggressive part comes first. The diplomacy follows once we have your attention." A young officer approached and saluted. "Admiral, the Dominion High Command is requesting direct communication with Commander Zethris. They seem agitated." "Put it on the main screen," Kovac ordered. The viewing wall lit up with the imposing figure of Supreme Overlord Kraxus, leader of the Dominion. His scaled hide was dark with rage, his ceremonial armor gleaming with the light of 1,000 conquered suns. "Zethris," he bellowed, "explain this betrayal. You were sent to conquer, not to parley with primitives." Before Zethris could respond, Kovac stepped forward. "Supreme Overlord Kraxus, I presume. I'm Admiral Kovac of Earth. Your commander hasn't betrayed you. She simply recognized reality." "You dare address me, human?" Kraxus snarled. "I will send 10,000 ships to burn your world to cinders." Kovac's expression didn't change. "No, you won't." "And why not?" The Admiral touched a control panel, and the display split to show multiple feeds from across the galaxy. Dominion outposts, supply lines, and communication relays, all under siege by ships bearing human insignias. "Because while you were focusing on Earth, we activated our contingency plans. Every sleeper agent, every hidden fleet, every diplomatic favor we've cultivated over the past century is now in play. Your empire, Supreme Overlord, is experiencing what we call a systemic cascade failure." Kraxus's scales paled. "Impossible. We would have detected such infiltration." With respect, Lieutenant Commander Wong interjected from his cyber warfare station. "Your security protocols are about 200 years behind ours. We've been inside your systems since before you knew we existed. Did you really think a species that went from first flight to lunar landing in 66 years would be content to sit quietly while an aggressive empire expanded toward our borders?" Another screen activated, showing Dominion worlds where populations were rising up, aided by human special forces and liberation technologies. Decades of oppression were crumbling in days. You see, Kovac continued, Earth didn't just prepare for invasion. We prepared for the complete restructuring of galactic politics. Your attack merely accelerated our timeline. Zethris watched in stunned silence as more reports flooded in. The Dominion's tributary worlds were declaring independence, protected by human defense platforms that had seemingly appeared from nowhere. Trade routes were being blockaded by ships using the same impossible technology she had encountered in battle. Commander Zethris, Craxus growled, I order you to fight. Take back your fleet and— With what, Supreme Overlord? Zethris interrupted, finding courage in defeat. Half my ships now fly under Earth protection protocols, their crews learning something called human rights. The other half are being upgraded with technologies that make our finest systems look like children's. She stepped closer to the screen. We underestimated them catastrophically. They don't just win wars, they win the peace that follows. They're already turning our former subjects into allies, trading partners, friends. Traitor, Craxus roared. No, Zethris said quietly. Realist, the Dominion's age of conquest is over. The humans didn't defeat us with weapons. They defeated us with ideas. As if to punctuate her words, alerts began flooding the Dominion's command center. Core worlds were reporting mass protests. Military units were refusing orders, and sector governors were opening negotiations with human diplomatic teams. Admiral Kovac allowed herself a small nod. Supreme Overlord, you have a choice. You can order your remaining loyal forces to fight and watch your empire burn. Or you can join the galactic commonwealth we're establishing. As equals, not conquerors. Equals. Craxus spat. The Dominion does not. The Dominion, a new voice interrupted, no longer exists in its current form. The speaker was High Chancellor Varix, one of Craxus's inner circle. The Senate has voted. We choose survival over pride. Craxus's image distorted as he raged, but the feed cut off, replaced by Chancellor Varix. Admiral Kovac, the Dominion Provisional Government accepts your terms. We request guidance in transitioning to a more democratic system. Kovac nodded. Welcome to the future, Chancellor. We'll begin sending advisors immediately. As the communication ended, Zethris turned to the human admiral. You planned all of this. Everything. Even our attack was part of your design. Not exactly, Kovac admitted. We planned for someone to attack eventually. The Dominion just happened to volunteer. You see, Commander, humanity learned something crucial during our violent history. The best way to stop a war is to make it impossible to win. She gestured to the stars beyond the observation window. Out there are dozens of species living under oppressive regimes like yours. Some we've already contacted secretly. Others we're approaching now. The age of galactic empires built on conquest is ending. What comes next will be built on cooperation, trade, and mutual benefit. And if species refuse this new order, then they'll face what you faced, a demonstration of why war with humanity is futile, not through superior firepower, but through superior strategy, innovation, and the willingness to think beyond conventional limitations. Weeks later, Zethris stood on the bridge of her restored flagship, now serving as a diplomatic vessel. Her crew, a mix of Dominion officers and human advisors, worked in harmony. The fear and prejudice that had driven the invasion had been replaced by cautious optimism. On the main screen, Earth grew smaller as they departed for Dominion space, carrying treaties, technologies, and new ideas. The mighty empire that had terrorized 1,000 worlds was being transformed, not through conquest, but through example. Commander, her human liaison officer said, Admiral Kovac wanted you to have this. He handed her a data crystal. What is it? The complete history of human warfare, from stone axes to quantum disruption fields. She said you might find it educational. Zethris accepted the crystal, remembering her first sight of Earth and how certain she had been of victory. Tell the Admiral. Tell her I understand now why they say humanity's greatest weapon isn't their technology or their tactics. Oh, what is it then? Their imagination. Their ability to see not just what is, but what could be. They don't just adapt to the future, they create it. As the Sovereign's Pride entered hyperspace, carrying the first seeds of a new galactic order, Zethris reflected on the lesson humanity had taught the galaxy. True strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to build, not in the power to conquer, but in the courage to connect. The Dominion had come to Earth seeking to add another world to their empire. Instead, they had become part of something greater, a community of worlds united not by force, but by choice. And at the center of it all stood humanity, the species that had turned their violent past into the foundation for a peaceful future, proving that the most powerful force in the universe wasn't military might, but the indomitable human spirit. The galaxy would never be the same /